You're listening to Two Guys Talking Wine with Michael Pincus and André Prue.
You want me to get you a new glass for every wine, or are you good with the white and the red?
You want the right and red?
All right, you sure?
I told you he was gonna grumble. He
I did
grumbled.
bring the Riedel out for you, though. So
You what?
I made sure I brought the Riedel
I only
glasses.
see two wines to begin with.
Well,
so
just
I
two reds, though. I don't know, the whites are in the fridge. I got to get up and get the whites.
Hello, Michael.
Andre, how are you?
I'm trying something new with this whole preamble thing where I kind of let the tape run a little bit before we start.
Oh, I like that kind of idea.
We call that a cold open in the biz.
Well, you know what? First of all, I do have I have something I want to tell you. I found out from a friend in Ohio, and I was very concerned about this eating of the cats and the dogs. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to find out what kind of wine they are drinking with that in Ohio.
Michael, that's a terrible
that is
joke.
A bad
that is
joke.
beyond bad.
And
that is a bad joke.
But wait a second. I asked my friend in Ohio, and he said, "Well, it's PetNet, of course." So, just a groaner all the way around.
So for those of you who have not been following the American election campaign, first off, shame on you for such a dated reference. That debate was over a month ago.
That will never grow old. That will never
Dude,
grow old.
it is beyond old. But anyways, I'm going to have to
moron
play...
going that they're eating the dogs and the cats will never get old. An American presidential candidate. That will live in infamy for 50 years. They'll still be playing that.
Still a dead joke. Anyways, I'm going to play the short clip of Donald Trump saying that so people know what we're talking about. A horrible, horrible reference. I'll put a link in the show notes
Who hasn't heard that?
Well, not everyone pays attention to American politics.
Oh, my God. All right, well, okay, fine.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Introduce yourself, sir.
Well, hi, guys.
Who are you?
Well, this seems to be our annual trip over to Flat Rock.
So then, if it's your annual trip, they all know who I am already.
Exactly.
But just for the sake of those who might not know me, because they may not follow American politics, and they may not know Flat Rock Cellars
or Canadian wine,
or Canadian wine. But Ed Madronich, and I'm the proprietor, owner, chief wine taster here at Flat Rock Cellars.
And this annual visit's a little bit different. We've been called out.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Michael, you've more been called out.
But what do they do now?
Well, what was our response? So Jacob Glantz is your marketing chief.
So
guy.
Jacob's a great guy, and he
Fantastic.
reached out to you guys to say, hey, we want to talk about a wine that's been very popular here in Ontario. It's been very successful. I'd love to talk more about the history of it, but our Twisted line of wines.
Yeah, this is the blended.
Yeah.
Okay,
and when he reached out.
We gave a lukewarm response.
Lukewarm, I would say.
Very
at
Luke.
best.
Very Luke. Less warm.
And so I said, Jacob, get back and call Michael and tell him, wait a minute here. We're going to talk about this, and let's talk about why you gave the lukewarm response, and I want to talk about why we shouldn't have a lukewarm response to what I would consider is a great wine.
So do I come and tell you the Luke part? No?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right. The Luke part is that you're talking about blended Ontario whites for the most part, some reds.
Okay.
I would say that Ontario white blends are they're almost as boring as Pinot Gris. I'm going right on
look
them
at
right
you
there.
Getting yourself in trouble. So look, and I want to talk about
you taste the stuff that comes through the LCBO. They are boring. There's nothing exciting about them. For every one that makes you go, wow, there's another 25 that make you go, yeah. There's a toilet for this wine.
I'll throw a tiny bit of shade on top of this too. Is I know for a fact that there's a couple of wineries that have thrown together a blend of odds and ends to make an LCBO SKU. A Chardonnay Riesling from a certain winery that is winding down operations comes to mind. That was a terrible mistaken idea.
So.
And then you throw a little bit of Gewurz in there, and you just floral it up, and that's what happens.
So you might be surprised, but I'm going to agree with what you've said so far.
Good.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
right.
so I'm going to agree with what you said, but I want to explain a little bit of the history of why that is the case and why that frustrates me and why I wanted to drag you guys here to talk about how it doesn't have to be that way. So let's just talk a little bit about history. So we launched Twisted out of the 2004 vintage. That was our first Twisted.
Aught 4.
Aught 4. And we have Chard, Riesling, and Gewurztraminer on the property, and we thought, I like to be innovative and try new things and try different things. And I was like, we started putting together a blend. We started talking about putting together this blend, and we ended up with what I will say is, in my opinion, it was a spectacular blend. And it took the Riesling, the best of Riesling, the acidity, the freshness, the crisp citrus flavors, with the best of the Gewurz, the spicy, the oily, the lychee kind of fruit, and it had the best of Chardonnay, which is the soft, round finish. And we put this wine together, and we were trying to come up with a name, and we, twisted vines, 3 vines, and, you're trying to come up with a name. We just somebody said, why don't we just call it Twisted? So we called it Twisted, and out came this wine. And everybody was like, I love the name, and I love the blend. And my opinion of it was still all hand-picked, hand-sorted, gravity-fed, great quality stuff right from the Flat Rock Vineyard. And it was absolutely spectacular. It hit the niche. The balance between the acidity and the sweetness and everything was great. And it was a really high-quality wine. I thought in many respects, the sum was greater than the individual parts, because it was intended to be a high-quality wine. Lo and behold, people liked it. Consumers bought it. And all of a sudden, other wineries in Ontario said, whoa, wait a minute, Flat Rock Cellars is doing this white blend thing with a funky name, and it's selling. I better do something with a white blend with a funky name and see if I can sell it. And what they did is exactly what you said. It was a race to the bottom. How do I take the dregs, the leftovers, the bits and pieces that I think are crap, put it into a blend, and put a funky name on it and sell it at my winery or at the LCBO? And so your reality and why you were lukewarm on it, I don't disagree with.
Hello, Bodacious.
Right? But
oh my gosh, that's not even
Bodacious.
VQA, man.
Yeah, let's not. I won't even comment on any particular one, but it's frustrating to me that the potential of blend, just getting back from Bordeaux, there's a reason why people blend wines.
Absolutely.
100%. In many respects, you can take the best qualities of each individual wine and make a better wine. And we made a mistake. The Ontario industry, I believe, made a mistake by just racing to the bottom, putting their worst stuff in it, just trying to sell it on the cheap. And but our Chardonnay and our Riesling and our Gewurztraminer, single varietal wines are, $25, but we'll sell you this $12 one that's a blend of all of them, but it's not really. It's just whatever's left in my cellar that I don't think I can sell, right? And it's not everybody. So let's be clear, it's not everybody that does that. But to me, that's why you guys have that opinion. And so I wanted to challenge back and say that's not everybody, and it's not what we have to be here in Ontario. And I think the potential to do great things with a blend, both red and white, should be looked at and should be worked on and improved upon, and let's change that opinion. So I wanted you guys to come, is to help say, okay, rather than just looking at the category, right, which fair enough, I don't disagree. Look at what we can do with the wines.
I didn't really witness, I guess, this race to the bottom as much as I think I experienced it after the bottom had already come in. But I know
I witnessed the race to the bottom. The race to the bottom was terrible. It was unbelievable how much, And it used to be a joke that Tony Aspler used to say, they used to throw in as much Gewurztraminer, and the moment you throw in the Gewurztraminer, you've pretty much lost the plot.
Okay, but there's an I have to put an asterisk
because you're looking for flavor,
this.
and that's what Gewurz is going to give you, right? It's going to give you some kind of floral. It's going to give you some kind of oily.
Okay, here's the asterisk beside that though: is it's not just Flat Rock Twisted. For me, it's Stratus White as well, and that's a purpose-built white assemblage that is done with love and care.
That's a 1 in 25, as I said. For every one that's
100%
blowing your mind, there's 25 out there that there's no way I would drink with your mouth.
Well, so who do we?
But here's my point: is that's why I pushed you to be here, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because there are some. So Stratus is a great example, right? We can do these amazing blended wines at high quality, right? And I think there's some great results. And rather than having the whole category be thrown aside as blended whites, right? Let's challenge and say, rather than just say, hey, let's throw away the whole category. Let's go back and look at what do we need to do to make sure that this category is better than, your perception or the reality of what's transpired here in Ontario.
So are we here to fix it today?
I don't think we're here to fix it. I'm here to talk about it, and I'm here to challenge people. I'm here to challenge you guys rather than just dismissing the whole thing. I want you guys to say, hey, here are the good, here are maybe not so good, or here's where you shouldn't go.
Let's taste through the first wine, have a quick conversation about it, and then I want to put a question to both of you of people who've been around a little bit longer than me. What we have in our glass is the 2020 Red Twisted.
Red Twisted, yeah.
Remember, this is Gamay, Pinot.
A little bit of Pinot.
Which is like a past 2 grand,
Yeah,
correct?
it's like a past 2 grand.
Wait, is it Cab Franc in this too?
Might be a little bit.
Yeah.
So like a past 2 grand with Cab Franc.
With a little Ontario twist, right? 100%.
Well, I'm having that notion challenged with me as well. I've tasted out of barrel one Cab Franc Pinot or Cab Franc Gamay I recently tasted where it's just like, that shouldn't go together, but
it does.
It does.
Yeah, and that, to me, that's the great stuff about blends, and allowing wineries to try it. But if they do it from a quality perspective, not from a I got inventory, I've got a bulk wine inventory that I got to sell. Let's figure out how to do it. I think I tasted with you guys before.
Oh, and we've tasted with you a lot. Okay, so this wine is seriously Gamay on the nose. It's vibrant, it's fresh. I was at a Beaujolais tasting yesterday. If I was tasting this blind, I'd probably guess Village or Beaujolais AOC quality wine. Really spicy, fresh fruit, juicy.
I'd like a little chill on it, but I mean,
good acid.
Yeah, it's good.
Good acid for
but a red blend makes sense. There's all kinds of great red blends in the world. I can't name off the top of my head, 5 really great white blends.
White Bordeaux.
Well, there's
Champagne.
I said one.
Champagne.
Bordeaux.
Champagne is a different beast. You cannot pick champagne.
Champagne is for sure another blend, white blend. You got Bordeaux. You've got Burgundy.
Oh. Burgundy is not necessarily
100%. Oh my God! So they throw Pinot Gris, your favorite grape variety, into Burgundy. Oh, they might not tell you. They might throw a little Aligoté in there. Oh, yeah. So, oops, they forget to tell you those things. So one of my neighbor just down the road, Burgundy varieties, this was when they planted the vineyard 20 years ago, with a Burgundy producer as the partner, and they planted Pinot Gris to go into their Chardonnay. So
to give it a lift.
To give it a lift. Rhone, and we can go through different
Rhone,
places in Rhone.
There we go. How did I forget about Rhone?
You want to go
Rhone I thought about.
And there's some Spanish places where they do it as well, for sure, right?
Again,
so we can start
are they great or are they passable?
Well,
they're great. White Rhone?
Dude, white Rhone is
white Rhone. Yes, I'll give you a white Rhone.
Rioja, they'll blend some stuff too.
I really haven't had a good Rioja white that I'm thrilled by.
I love Rioja white.
I like some of their single varietals there, but I do not usually like their blends.
Anyways,
okay, but we do have examples. Listen,
and what about Viognier and Shiraz? It's a red, ends up being a red wine.
Red white.
That's a red and white blending together, but it's a white going with a red.
All right.
So,
but I will also point out to you this. Look, the Italians stopped doing blends with reds and whites because the wines would not age as well with the white wines in them.
Okay, regardless,
because they used to throw in a lot of Trebbiano into old Sangioveses, and they realized this does not work because the wines don't age as well.
Okay, if we were in front of a judge right now, I believe what Ed has successfully done, though, is present legal precedent.
He has thrown out some regions where they make white. You can go to any region and say, yes, they make white as well.
Yep.
But I can't tell you, I'm saying great white wine. Great.
So I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop at Bordeaux and Burgundy. So that's as far as I need to go.
Well, I said 5.
And I'll throw Rhone.
Yeah, but how many wine regions? Like if you're going to say how many great Pinot Noir producer regions are in the world, then you're going to. I can go to.
Are we still dealing with 1 out of every 25, even in those regions? I would say probably yes.
Maybe. But even you can go to California, they're blending whites, they're doing Rhone varietal whites in California, right? So is that a region? Yeah, for sure. So California you would add to the mix. I'm sure it's true in
Correct.
What
I'm asking is you've just said that you are the cream of the crop when it comes to a white blended wine. What I am saying is for everyone that you are, there's 25 out there making a white blend that are not so good. So I would say in every region that we have just mentioned, we have the same problem. Where there's creams of the crop, and then for one out of everyone that's great, you've got probably 20, 25 that are.
So I'm going to say the same. That's the same, but I would argue back a little bit that it's the same for every wine. So if you go to Bordeaux, there's for every one great Bordeaux Chateau, there's 25 that suck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's wine. Oh, that's wine, right? So
you didn't spill anything.
No,
anyway.
I'm a professional. So the point being is, yes, we can. You can get it's 1 in 25, but that's for all wines, right? Like in everywhere you go, there's a bunch of good wines, and then there's more bad wines. So my point being is, there's blended whites everywhere. There's some really great blended whites everywhere, and we should be looking at it as why should we be so let's go back, let's go to the question is why should we be doing blended whites? Because if the argument is we shouldn't be doing blended whites because they suck, then I would push back and say that's not the case, right? But if all white blends were terrible, then we shouldn't be doing blended whites. But there's a reason why I believe we should be doing blended whites, right?
Well, I think to get to top quality, though, it's going to be a very personal question, because the thing is, why you already answered the question in the preamble about why do we do blended whites. You were experimenting, and the consumers responded. I think Stratus, like JL, was brought on as a master of the blend and
100%.
And did that as well. So here's the question I wanted to put to the two of you, though. Who is responsible for the race to the bottom? Because here's the reality. Ed, you're running a business. People are not making wines unless people are buying them. So at this race to the bottom, someone somewhere that wasn't you or I, Michael, thought some of these wines were good, or at least good enough to continue to make them, to have it spread epidemically across Niagara. Whose fault is it?
Like you're looking for the producer versus the consumer?
I'm leaving it as a broad question. Unpack
Are we
it.
looking for a
Let's unpack
specific
it.
producer?
Like,
Are
is it the retailers? Like, I know you and I like to beat up on the LCBO a bit. Is it the LCBO's fault for carrying these? Is it the consumer's fault for not looking or wanting to spend a bit more money on the better wines? Is it the winery's fault for pushing it on the consumers? Like, whose fault is it that it spread, that now we have this perception of this?
I would probably throw the LCBO a lot of shade on that, because they're always looking for cheaper. They're always looking for something new.
You don't have to say anything bad about the LCBO.
No. I don't say anything bad. I wouldn't say anything
They're always
bad
looking
on
for
the
something
LCBO.
new.
They're looking for things that are new, and they see a trend, and they will chase after a trend. If rosés are hot, they'll buy lots of rosés. If whatever region becomes hot, they buy those wines, because that's their job, right? They're there to sort of see what the trend is and buy wines that consumers are looking to buy in that trend.
Is it to follow trends, or is it to maybe set some standards or set some?
If I'm running a retailer, I'm following trends because I want to serve as many of my customers as possible, make as much money as possible. And in theory, if you're a good retailer, you're getting ahead of trends instead of being behind them. I would say the LCBO is fairly guilty of being behind trends.
They're absolutely behind. They were the last province in the country to bring in fusion, and it was hot when fusion was hot. It was everywhere.
Yeah. Well, but so sometimes they're faster or slower, but again, the quality issue is tough for me to argue, right? Like you guys, I'm saying you guys have that perception that there's been, and I would agree there is somewhat of a race to the bottom, and the quality is not as what it could be, but that's true of all wine. There's also filters at the LCBO. The LCBO just doesn't buy any wine willy-nilly. Like they taste it first, and they want to make sure there's some redeeming qualities to that wine, and
I would argue with that point as well. But
I know
ahead.
you would argue, but I think they actually do a decent job in trying to filter through some of the quality for the wines. They also buy brands, so the quality might be bad, but the brand is super great, and they'll do that as well. But that's not a bad thing. But I don't know if there's an answer to say, is it the consumers, the LCBO, is it the wineries? I just think to me it is. I want to challenge. I challenge you guys. That's why I wanted you guys here to not throw out the baby with the bathwater and say, hey, there's some reasons why we should be doing blended wines. Let's find the great wines. Like part of your job in media, wine media, is you guys spend a lot of time figuring out what's good and what's not good.
Correct.
And you communicate that to your listeners.
Which is why Jacob could convince us to come here.
Right.
Because we knew that you make good wine. And if Jacob is going to stand behind some of this stuff, this hard, because
I didn't want to have Michael yell at you.
No, it's all good. I love it.
Look,
I'm in.
When you said it was lukewarm, it was tepid at best.
I know. That's why I pushed. Believe me, when Jacob told me your response, I was like, now I want him here for sure. Like, let's get it. I'm up for the good discussion, right? Like, and to me, this is, we were talking about it before we got on, and I just, like, to me, I love the discussion around wine, right? Like, what are the issues? What are the things that we need to be talking about as consumers, as winery owners, as wine media? What should we be talking about? And we were talking about some of the, I'll say, the failings. I personally think some of the things of Bordeaux that aren't, I would say on the up and up, right? But
smoke and mirrors, marketing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so to me, that's why I wanted to have this discussion, because I'm really proud of what we do from a blended perspective.
So just to keep things moving along, because I think we're going to go through a few wines here. You poured a second wine into our glass.
Yes.
Michael, I would love to play poker with you because you do have a tell. You had a visceral response to this wine.
Did I give you this one already, Michael?
I did.
And you also
you didn't like it.
Drank the whole thing. You drank the whole thing.
I spit the first sip, but
then
you drank the rest.
I saw
your
immediate reaction was to look over at the bottle. So I know you liked this.
So this actually was a twisted that was 2012. Now, I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see what the vintage was, but it's great, and it is aged gloriously.
It is. Now, it's a hot vintage.
Warmer vintage for sure.
Yeah.
Which tends to fall off faster than the cooler vintages in Ontario.
True enough.
Sure.
But you've got still Pinot Gamay in
This
here.
is dominant Pinot.
Pinot.
Yeah, I'll say it's mostly Pinot.
And then what would you have thrown in here?
Probably a little at this point.
Does it say on the label?
I can't even remember. But it would have been Pinot. It might have actually had a bit of Chard.
Those are Costco glasses. Is that what they are?
Yeah,
I'm
sure they
buy
are.
them too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you get old.
Yeah. Just have them everywhere.
So I'm going to say mostly Pinot. I'll get you guys the notes and we can update, but probably a bit of Chard, so might even be a bit of white in here, and maybe I don't think it would have been Gamay, but it might have been Gamay.
Yeah, where would you have been sourcing Gamay in 12?
Yeah, from? I don't even. Yeah, that's why I'm saying it probably wouldn't have been.
Was there any of your Syrah in this? Like, did you have yours?
That would have been the last vintage was 11.
Okay, so you would have got rid of the Syrah.
I would love to have had that Syrah in there, but yeah. So, but mostly Pinot, right? But aging beautifully, right?
Yeah, this one's nice. Again, I would prefer a little chill, but then that's just me for this, because I think it would have benefited.
I'm going to make
from
a Michael Pincus bingo card for when we have guests on, of the stuff that he will make a comment about. It will be temperature, stemware, closures. Hang on, what else will be on a Michael Pincus bingo card?
Well, I was going to. Then I won't mention the closure, but I do believe that the. I believe
we wouldn't be at Flat Rock if we didn't talk about screw caps.
Correct. So you're at screw cap, and I believe this also helps wine age.
Yeah, because it's the best closure for wine.
I do not care about wines in my cellar that are under screw cap. I tell you that right now, unless I know for a fact that they were made to drink. Right now, unless somebody says this is 2 years.
I will add a small asterisk to this as well, and also as someone who's making a little bit of wine. I like composite corks. When I open up a capsule and I see that it's a diam, I know that I don't have to worry about being corked, but I know it's going to age very differently than under a screw cap.
Right. Just be careful. I give you warnings about agglomerated cork. They don't have a good history.
Okay, I've had pretty good.
So DM is pretty good. I'll say it's the premium side of agglomerated cork, but it's still agglomerated cork. They're still adding glue and gluing stuff together.
Yeah.
So they got the little chips of cork, so they can. It doesn't guarantee 100% no cork
but
taint.
It's a little bit better.
It's a hell of a lot better than a natural cork.
It's a lot better because when they bleach a natural cork, they can't get all the way through the natural cork.
Yeah.
With the little chips, they can better cover all the little bits and pieces so they can kill the TCA, and so that's better. But agglomeration and glue does not have a great history. And I don't know what it'll be like for DM, but you've got glue now attached to your wine.
Correct. You got some glue in there.
Yeah.
But I think it's better
It says non-toxic.
than a plastic cork, right? So plastic
cork is terrible.
Yeah.
like when I open stuff from Ontario from 5 to 10,
Plastic
and it's
cork,
under
that's
plastic,
for sure on the bingo
done.
card.
I'm just like, I wish somebody had told me on the back, plastic cork.
Man,
But
we've
I would
gone,
have drank
we've
that
gone
sooner.
so long without you talking about plastic corks.
Yeah, but
Oh,
plastic
it's-
corks
it's-
are basically gone. I don't know if there's any. Is there
Yeah,
anybody
but-
using plastic cork
yeah,
anymore?
There's some of the
No,
they're
they're not using plastic. It's like the new Noma cork that they say is the sugarcane
Oh,
derivative.
stop it!
Michael says
Plastic.
it's plastic. It's not plastic.
Still plastic.
Okay, so I'm gonna agree with Michael on that one.
Yeah.
Probably
Whoa!
still plastic.
Yeah.
Probably still plastic.
Yeah.
Look, plastic is not great, and I love talking about like plastic cork. Plastic, just for the listeners, it goes into a mold and it molds to its shape. So it molds to the shape of the glass. And the problem with that is once it molds to the shape of the glass, it no longer expands.
Yeah.
But when the temperature changes, glass and plastic change volume at a different speed and at a different volume. So when it gets colder, the plastic cork shrinks faster than the glass.
Preach, Ed, preach.
Yeah, there you go. And when it gets warmer, the plastic expands faster than the glass. So warming up, it's probably not a bad thing, but when it cools down, all your air runs in and there goes the wine.
Okay,
It's done.
okay, not that I'm defending them, but I guess I have to be the one defending them. The sugarcane corks have some give to them.
For how long?
I don't know. We'll see. But I'm happy
Yeah,
that
again-
I think they were
again-
popular for a few years and they're disappearing now too. So
Look,
There's got to be a reason they're disappearing. That's
Yeah,
Yeah,
and,
100%.
And look, I'm all for people trying new things, right? But if it doesn't work, let's call it doesn't work, and let's move on to the next trial of something different, right? So if they could find different vessels, like something other than glass that was as good as glass, then we should all be looking at it. But we've yet to find something that is as good for wine as glass, right? And we've found something better than cork because cork is 500-year-old technology. Screw cap is not. And Michael, I think he was saying, to him, it doesn't matter whether it's cork or screw cap. It's taste the wine, and that's what determines.
correct.
Yeah.
But when I'm going through my cellar and I'm sitting there and I have a bottle from 2010 and one of them has a screw cap on it, and one of them has a cork, I'm most likely to go for the one with the cork because I'm like, yeah, screw cap will go. It'll still go.
Yep.
It'll be all right. But the 10 may be getting a little old, right? Time to get that out of there.
to keep things moving,
Thank you for making my point.
to
It's
keep
great.
things moving on, I think we've got some white twisted. To
Yeah.
taste.
Well, we're going to move on to some white twisted.
But I like this 12. I think it's really nice. It's just
It's
It's aged really well.
opulent. It still has a nice freshness to it. It's got great acid for 2012. Like I think
I think they've really piled this on. And I don't know where. I know Ed's in the next room, so we'll
no,
try
you
and
can
talk.
hear us. Your voice is
So-
pretty loud.
But I don't know if Ed listened to our old Pinot podcast that we did, where we tried Pinots from 2010. I think was the oldest, all the way up to 2017. Your 2012 was the oldest Pinot that had survived
Yeah.
under screw cap, and it was just not gravity. It was just the straight,
foundation.
Foundation Series Pinot. 12.
Oh, I think we drank that whole bottle, didn't we?
Yeah, it was lovely. It was great.
I love what you've done with the bottle on this. I love that you printed the label on the bottle. This is the 2023 20th anniversary twisted. Anyone who's listened to the podcast knows I'm a sucker for a label. And, I've been lukewarm on the full rebrand. I still miss the old logo. I love the new labels, especially for Gravity and Rusty Shed. This is just stunning, and it's hard to stand out at the LCBO, and this stands out.
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you very much. And look, it's 20 years. This is the 20th vintage, and we wanted to do something different and get it out there and sort of revitalize, and exactly why I pushed you guys to come here. We want to revitalize this category, this wine, this opportunity for the Ontario industry, because I do believe there is a place for Ontario to do these white blends really, really, really well. And I think everybody can take a different approach. Stratus, I will say, takes a much more Bordeaux-esque approach.
Yep.
I forgot about that other region, Alsace, that does a lot of blended whites, right? So
they're good too.
Yeah, they're good too. I know you're going to go, well, their Grand Cru Class A Rieslings are, what they're known for. But, there's lots of blended whites. They do Riesling, Gewurz, Pinot Gris, Sylvander, a bunch, what other varieties they're doing up in Alsace.
You're just running through regions and saying they make it.
Well, they do.
You're still not saying that, you haven't given me a producer. And I guess that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for you to go,
okay,
this producer.
So I think Hugo Gentil, that is a solid blended white.
Congratulations, one producer.
I'm going to say all of the Bordeaux or all of the Burgundy producers that are charging an arm and a leg for their Chardonnays that put Pinot Gris that you don't know they put Pinot Gris in. So whatever name that you want, that I'll say Domaine de la Vougerie, I'm sure does. I know does it. I'm going to say Bordeaux producers. The list goes on: Aubryon, La Mission Aubryon, Carbigny, Diffusal, the Martillac, La Gravière, Martillac. Like there's tons of chateaus in Bordeaux that do whites, and now you're getting you got the Pagode de Cossa
and I'm going to Bordeaux in January, and I will find out if you are correct.
All right.
How about that?
I need to see this. You're going to go to every producer and just
go, let me try your white. And they'll go, but our red. And I'm like, no, I want to try the white because I want to prove Ed wrong.
So, yeah, great. So I'm happy for you to do that because more and more are doing whites. They are now more and more. So in the 70s, Bordeaux was half white, half red, and now it's 80-20 or even less, 90-10. But now Bordeaux is realizing, oh, my God, we need to do more whites, and they're trying to plant whites. So you've got all the Grand Cru Class A chateaus are doing whites.
I love white Bordeaux.
Oh, one of my favorite wines for sure.
So the thing about Twisted that I'm always a little annoyed with myself with is how much I like the RS in it.
Yep.
Like it makes my mouth happy. Like, even at this time of year, we're recording this on October 8th. Kind of a weird day, like our first legitimate cool day of the
13
year.
degrees today.
It was cold and rain.
Tonight's going to go down to 8. It's getting,
but I mean, like a wine like this, I hate to be super lazy, but like with a spicy pasta, something like that.
Yeah.
The sweetness would help cut through that. Something with black olives in it, you'll get the sweetness to cut through that.
Yeah.
Elevated floral notes. It smells super tropical.
That's not rain.
At least there wasn't an ow after that.
It smells super tropical. Yeah. Like it's got a really nice passion fruit, pink grapefruit nose.
Yeah. No, and look what I found when we did it, and keeping this line of a little bit of residual sugar just softens the edge. I don't know, Michael, you may remember. I'm sure you don't. The Pied d'Or commercials of the 80s.
Absolutely.
And they had the French accent woman go, without the edge, right? For Pied d'Or. Was it Pied d'Or? Yeah, I think it was.
Pied d'Or was
and to me, that's what that RS does. It just cuts the edge, and it's dry enough for wine-involved people to like it and enjoy it because it's not sweet, and it's sweet enough for non-wine-involved people to go, yeah, this isn't so dry that I don't enjoy it, right? And so, to me, we really found originally 20 years ago that sweet spot of the right balance between acidity, the acidity and the residual sugar. And it needs a little bit of residual sugar because there's Riesling in it, right? It's got a good portion of Riesling, and that Riesling has that bright, crisp acidity. Whereas, someone like a Stratus or some of the other white blends that are great here, if they go a more Bordeaux based or Chardonnay based wine, they're going to have a lot less residual sugar because those wines tend to be creamier and less acidic, and so they don't need that little bit of residual sugar. So to me, it's just it allows a winery here in Ontario to pick its lane and go do that lane really, really well, right? Like I really believe we're doing this lane really well. With Twisted, I think there's others that are doing their lane, whether it's Stratus or whether it's some others, doing their lane really, really well with some of the the blended whites and reds. So to me, I love it, and I think it's really resonated with people. And to me, in many respects, it's actually got people to trade up to wine. So I think about the people, why it had success was people, that's a cool label, it's a cool name, I'm going to try it, I'm going to spend a little bit more. It's not like it's a cheap wine for sure, but it's certainly not an expensive wine, right? But it's in that it's hitting that sweet spot, being able to deliver great value, great quality at a reasonable price, which you guys know is the hallmark of what we do here at Flat Rock Cellars.
I haven't had Trius White in forever, so I know we're supposed to be talking about Flat Rock, but I'm really trying to rack my brain over who does it well, and I don't think I've had Trius White in over a decade. And that wine used to be a banger.
Does Trius still making
Yeah,
just
I don't know.
white?
They
make Trius red. Is the
Yeah,
icon
like Trius
now,
red.
but
I would
I
think
haven't
they
seen
do.
Trius white in forever.
I don't
But
know.
they used to do the white blend, and
Correct.
it used to be really good. And I
And
know
I don't-
Craig McDonald had made
Yeah.
a few of those.
I cannot remember the last Trius white I had.
Henry of Pelham did their family tree white,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I
that
remember
was a good one.
And I remember
That
that
was-
rolling
that
out
was good.
being like,
Yeah.
holy
Yeah.
crap! Like maybe some people are taking this serious, but then once again, David Stasiak, amazing winemaker. That Rockway
Yep.
Chardonnay Riesling that went
Yep.
through vintage. I still remember tasting that, seeing it on the tasting panel, just being like,
Yeah.
what the hell is this?
Yeah, and you're not here to talk about Flat Rock Cellars. We're here to talk about Ontario blended
White-
wines, because I believe there's a place for Ontario blended wines. And I think, look, we do a lot of single varietals, so I don't want to take anything away from the great single varietals that are done. But to me, you sort of challenged me to push back a little bit, when I got the lukewarm response, and I just wanted to push back and say, hey, wait a minute, you just went through a whole bunch of wineries that are doing some good blended whites, and you had to agree. There's some good blended wines.
I'm
I'm
pretty
pretty sure
I
the
think-
Family Tree White is gone.
I think Family Tree White still exists. I think the Trius White is gone.
But either
somebody
way,
from
though-
Trius, please
So-
come on and tell us. But I mean, the Family
so
Tree
is-
White, I think, still exists.
There were
because
so
Family
many
Tree Red still exists.
There were so many bad wines like this that some of the wineries pulled the plug on them, or potentially did. I
and they
guess you
should
have to do
have.
some
And they
research.
should have. Like, look,
Yeah.
why are you wasting? I know we talked about them putting the dregs of humanity into these wines, but then when you realize that if you stop using the dregs and use the good stuff into your 100% Chard and your Rieslings, then why waste the money on a $12 bottle of wine when you can up your ante on a $25 bottle?
Yeah,
I love that
And-
you went to say the dregs of humanity.
yeah.
I don't think we said dregs of humanity. I think we said dregs of the wine.
And here's where maybe the market
U.S. politics comes back in. Sorry about that.
and maybe here's where the marketplace is playing a role. Is we started up here because Stratus and I sort of came out of the gate similar year, same year, and so some really good stuff being done. The floodgates open, and a lot of people tried it. Some weren't great, successful at it. And now we're pulling back and we're eliminating those that aren't successful, and the marketplace is speaking, right? You guys are sitting here saying, well, it's been ho-hum for this time. But now when we sit there and think about it, we just labeled off a whole bunch that are actually doing some good stuff. And maybe the ones that are ho-hum, that weren't successful at it, weren't doing great stuff, the marketplace has spoken, and maybe we can start to push this category back into the forefront again as a really great category and a great place for Ontario wine to be.
But how do these wines age?
Oh, let's talk about how they
Well,
age.
And then, Michael, you can add your 2 cents.
My 2 cents. Should we really be forcing people to come out with more blended white if you're just going to,
No, but the market's
no,
going
no,
are
to
we going to
decide.
race to the bottom again?
No,
at
no.
some
market's
point?
gonna
I'm
decide.
saying the market's now the marketplace has spoken, and it won't accept stuff that is not of quality. It is determined that maybe if consumers in the marketplace is now realizing that this can be done, it can be done well, and we won't accept mediocre quality.
This has aged interestingly.
I would go with the interesting as well.
It's definitely got a lot of Riesling because the nose is throwing the petrol.
No, it's the Gewurztraminer that's screaming out to me. That's that floral note that's in
Oh,
there.
see, the thing that's screaming out to me is the gasoline.
No, on the palate, you're getting a lot of that Gewurztraminer oiliness.
Yeah, I agree. I get the Riesling on the nose,
Yeah.
and I get the Gewurz on the palate, for sure. But still, a great, intensely flavored wine.
It's intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
the
know if
texture's pretty broad on it.
I don't know if I want all this floral Chanel No. 5 going on here, but
This is when you have to pair it
that's
with
all
the
right.
right food. Like,
jasmine rice.
no, I would do something like pad thai, like something with a lot of salt and umami with it.
You don't. It's which is fine. I'm not offended at all. Like you don't like the flavor, but man, it is intense.
No,
It
no,
is
I'm
very
not- I'm not
intense.
saying it's
There is a richness of flavor in this wine that when
See, I want something with a lot of salt and like something with
Yeah.
a good amount of MSG. Like this would be great with like pho.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying
Wash
really
your
hard to
mouth
not
out.
just
Yeah.
be lazy. I'm just trying not to be lazy and saying Asian food.
Yeah,
because Asia's a large continent, but like there's some specific dishes that this would go. I don't think this would be great with sushi.
Bulgogi
I think
beef.
I think it's too intense for that. Yeah, probably be good with bulgogi.
Yeah.
No, it's a
but
little bit of spice
but
to the bulgogi.
but my point here is if you like intensely flavored, slap your face. I'm surprised at how in your face the wine is.
Yeah,
right?
the wine
It's
is definitely
very
in your
diverse.
face. The
Yeah.
wine is definitely intense, but I'm not digging the Gewurz how intense it is. And some people would, right? Some people really like that floral intensity. And Andre's putting up his hand.
Yeah,
there.
I'm digging it.
Yeah, if you're a Gewurz lover, wow, I got a smile on my face because I'm pleasantly surprised. And I agree with you. It's Gewurz dominant on the palate. Really nice, spicy, lychee, all of that great stuff. That's Gewurz, and it's an intensely flavored wine. And if you want subtle and elegant, I agree with you. It's not. It's not.
While I was clearing out the cellar, one of the few whites that were remaining was a Gewurz, and it was I don't remember where it was from, but it was a 15-year-old Gewurz.
Was it from a region that blends whites?
No, it was from Ontario. Bum ching, not well anyway. But the Gewurz was really intense and was really probably one of the better wines of the night. Was
Right,
Gewurz,
yeah.
and you don't expect Gewurz to age really, really well because it doesn't usually have a lot of acidity to it.
Yeah.
A little softer of a wine,
Yeah,
but I mean, it did have.
I can't
that
say I've had a lot of old Gewurz.
yeah,
so.
but really good intensity, and
Nice.
that's what Gewurz has in its age. It's
Yes.
the intensity.
Yeah, it should have it in its youth. I
Correct.
find
Yeah.
if it's not intense, it's not a good Gewurz,
Correct.
right? Like it.
Well,
it
and
should
Gewurz is
be.
one because the acid's low. When you get it young, you do get a bit of that edge, and I want the edge to the Gewurz.
Yeah, and so that was just. I don't know if we said it's a 17. So
Yeah.
7-year-old, pretty good for a 7-year-old.
It's from the
wine.
before time,
Before
before the pandemic.
Oh my god!
I don't know.
Before the pandemic.
You guys know, like the pandemic was 4 years ago, right?
BP.
It's scary, eh? All right, let's try another one.
All right, let's see what we got in here. It already looks less viscous than
I'm
the
going to
last
go a
one.
little hotter vintage, maybe.
Oh, this is Meyer lemon, like really specifically like a sweet lemon on the nose, but not like
See, I
lemon
love
curd.
when as soon as you say that. Yep, I get it.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is like I couldn't have told you what a Meyer lemon was until like a few years ago, and my wife and I we opened the bakery in Hamilton, and the stuff that she's cooking with, and she's like, "This is a Meyer lemon," and you smell it, and it's just like, "Oh, that's."
Yep.
It smells like a lemon, but like it's different.
So this one to me has less intensity on the Gewurz. The Riesling, I think, is coming to the fore on this one, palate and nose. So I don't know what the blending percentage is on the 17.
Yeah, but it's like pink grapefruit cocktail on the palate.
Yeah, there's something about this one that's got a little more zip and zing and happy mouth feel to it.
This is lovely.
Yeah, this is crazy. Nice.
It's also not showing its age either.
no, not color wise, not taste wise.
Like
right?
was this the 2022?
No, this is like a 2015,
Yeah,
2014. Yeah,
15.
Screw caps, right?
yeah, screw caps, baby.
I know everybody wants to race to screw caps as the great preserver of wines.
What is the great preserver of wines?
It's certainly the best preserver of wines in a bottle. But the wine still ages, right? Like everybody thinks, well, the wines don't age. The wines absolutely do age.
Much slower.
Yeah, maybe differently. Call it slower. I'm not. Yeah, but it's because they preserve it better, right? They don't leak. They don't let air in. They don't. Anyways, we can go why.
This one does not show age. The color is
It's crazy.
is great. But I don't think you put a lot of Chardonnay. I don't think you put a lot of barrel fermented Chardonnay in there, so it's not going to have a lot.
We
I don't
never
think
use
there's
barrel.
anything barrel
We
ever
never
in
put
here.
barrel in Twisted.
so
Twisted
so
never.
henceforth the
has
color is
never-
going to be vibrant and bright for the
never
most
have
part.
barrel in it. Riesling in general is always the dominant grape variety.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. 15 was a short crop, and so we might not have just had the amount of Gewurz to put into it because we only have a little bit of Gewurz, and if it was a short crop, the balance between how much Gewurz is more susceptible to cold than, and so I'm trying to think. I bet you we had very little Gewurz, and so we probably didn't have the Gewurz to put into it.
Well, I know
so
in
it's less
15,
Gewurz
so
dominant.
your neighbor just down the road, Featherstone, lost their Gewurz in 15 completely. So I don't know if you ever lost all your Gewurz at any one time, but I mean,
well, remember that vineyard came back.
Yeah,
it did, Phoenix. So
yeah, it comes back. I don't think we got all of it gone, but because I can still taste a little bit in it, for sure. So it would have been less Gewurz, but as a percentage of the blend for the 17, obviously less of the percent for sure.
So Ed, you were pretty firm and quick to say that you don't do stainless with Twisted. Have you thought about experimenting with that, like going the Stratus route, going the white Bordeaux route? I mean, I know you've been experimenting with Sauvignon Blanc as well.
We've done what we've called a seriously twisted in the past, and I think we did that in 2006, 2008. I don't know if we did it in a subsequent vintage to that, and that was barrel aged. So it was barrel aged Chardonnay dominant with a little bit of Gewurz and a little bit of Riesling, but barrel aged. So, and we called it Seriously Twisted. We haven't done it in a number of years.
I'd like to challenge you to bring it back.
Calls to bring it back.
I mean,
when the call comes from across the table.
Yeah, well, you and I were talking about Bordeaux before we hit record on the microphone. Michael's going to Bordeaux in January. Yeah. I think this region in particular is pretty well suited for Fumé style Sauvignon Blanc when it's not overdone. We had Ryan Oldridge at Crew in Lake Erie North Shore rise up to the challenge. So maybe one barrel, get a nice second use barrel, and and put it together.
I'm with you that I think we can do some Bordeaux style. So I'm with you. I love Bordeaux whites. There's not a lot of Semillon in the province, and not a lot of Muscadel. So there's not to try and blend. So doing like a Fumé Blanc style barrel-aged Sauvignon Blanc is possible. It's part of our experimental series. We've done some Sauvignon Blanc here just to learn about it, to see if we want to plant some Sauvignon Blanc in the vineyard. What is the sort of next variety that we plant here at Flat Rock Cellars? So I do have some Sauvignon Blanc that we've done.
It's good,
and it's all barrel-aged Sauv Blanc.
It's good too. I remember that.
Yeah. No, so anyway, I'm really pleased with it.
I'm throwing the challenge out at some point. Think about bringing back Seriously Twisted. Maybe not like full on Bordeaux style, but I think seeing what Stratus has done with some of these varieties in their blend, I'd like to see your take on it.
Just to argue with my co-host a little bit.
So you never do that?
No, not at all.
I was first commenting that you're going to say the wine was too cold now.
No, this. I don't mind cold wine. It can warm up, right? You just can't put an ice cube in it. That to me, sends a shiver down my spine.
No, I'm not in.
Freaks me right out when people do that, and I see it, and I'm like,
well, I'm okay if people do it. if we're going to evaluate a wine, it's hard to do it when you water it down.
Yeah. So, I am not a huge fan of the Fumés that I've tasted from Ontario. I find that we just over oak for the most part.
Featherstone, Henry Appellum are 1 and 2. Featherstone doesn't call theirs Fumé, but they always have 10 to 15% oak. Henry Appellum's, in my opinion, has been on par quality-wise to the Robert Mondavi entry level, and it's half the price. But I do agree with you. I think the Hidden Bench Fumé is hit with way too much oak. And that's the other one that just really comes to mind.
It's just like we're trying to replicate Chardonnay with
Sauv Blanc.
Let's not do that.
And then Ryan Oldridge's Walk the Plank from the Lake Erie North Shore, which he did twice, by the way. He did one with Niagara fruit and one with Lake Erie North Shore fruit. Both of them were supremely well done, not over oaked.
Yeah, I think the key for doing, call it Fumé Blanc style oak aged Sauvignon Blanc, is you need the intensity of the Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah. Correct. You still need that.
If you do not have, you can get a lukewarm, unoaked, not super intense Sauvignon Blanc, and it'll be good, right? But if you add oak to that, it actually takes away from the wine. It over dominates it.
100%.
I want to see the varietal.
Yeah, you've got to have an intensely flavored Sauv Blanc to begin with. Yeah. And if you don't have that Sauv Blanc intensity balanced with that slab of oak, it's going to be tough to work.
Yeah, so it just turns into, as I said, like a weak Chardonnay.
Yeah.
All right. So just so we can kind of close, and let's close on
Great.
hopefully a high and less contentious note.
No,
here.
nothing's contentious. Like, look, I always, everybody worries contention. Like, what I love about what we can talk about in the wine industry is everybody has different perspective because it's
I'm
taste.
not okay. To be clear, I'm not worried about contention.
No. I know you're not.
I just
want to
make sure that this podcast isn't an hour and a half long.
Right. Okay.
Oh,
Great.
all right.
We're recording on October 8th.
Okay.
I got to see some of your ferments taking place. Pinot is well underway here.
Yep.
Is harvest done at Flat Rock?
Our entire vineyard is in, which is great. So we were probably in, I want to say probably a week ago now, which is great. I don't know the exact date. Might have been last Wednesday or Thursday, so maybe just under a week.
How was the 2024 vintage? How do you feel about it?
We love it. Not crazy in size. It was probably an average sized vintage, which is good. Quality is going to be exceptional. We are stoked about the Pinots. We got it in before the rain, the first bit of rain that we got. So we're really stoked about the Pinots. I'm going to say we've never had cleaner fruit when it comes to Pinot Noir. Normally we spend a lot of time sorting, and it was like, why are we even looking at it? There's no, it was less than 1% of stuff we would have had to sort out. That's how good the fruit was.
I have to double check with Adam, but from what I saw with our Pinot that we got, it looked super clean.
So the Pinots were awesome. Rieslings were great, solid. I think it's going to be a stellar Nadjas Vineyard year. Again, we got it.
But when is it not?
Yeah, that's true. And then the Chards were great. The Chards hung really, really well. And just the phenolic ripeness and complexity of the Chardonnays is going to be outstanding. They weren't crazy high sugars, but they're going to be absolutely beautiful wines. So excited. Yeah, and all of that means that Twisted is going to be stellar because we're sitting here talking about Twisted.
I've got one last question, unless you have anything else, Michael.
Well, I wanted to know, did you get Gewurz this year?
Yep, and we absolutely got Gewurz.
Okay.
Gewurz is usually the last thing we brought in, so it would have been brought in, I'll say, late last week.
Okay.
Would have been when we brought it in. Yeah, it was great.
Can I please have a little bit more of the 17?
Yes, you can.
That's the last question I have.
17.
17.
Wow.
I'm André Prue from AndreWineReview.ca.
He's going to be dabbing this behind his ears. Oh, my God. I'm Michael Pincus of MichaelPincusWineReview.com. We'd like to thank our guest, Ed Madronich, who I think has now beaten Thomas Batchelder for amount of times on the podcast.
We're going to do something that we should do but don't. How can people find you, Ed?
Well, flatrockcellars.com is our website, and we're here in we're right at perched above the lovely town of Jordan here down in the Niagara Peninsula. So come
People
and visit
should
us
sign
here.
up for your newsletter. You guys send out regular specials and promos when there's stuff for sale.
Yeah, look, to me, it's wine is about the experience and all the fun stuff we can do with wine. So back vintages, tastings like this, all of these fun experiences just make life more interesting.
And don't just support Flat Rock. You can support Two Guys Talking Wine, patreon.com/Two Guys Talking Wine.
Very nice. You always forget that one. And you know what, Ed? I'm gonna ask you for something that is gonna shock probably our listenership before I say goodnight. And you got any Chardonnay I can try? Good night.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for taking the challenge.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Two Guys Talking Wine on iTunes.
Two Guys Talking Wine is produced by Jim Ray, Adam Duran, and Ken Little.